So I want to talk about something because a lot of people may not understand how this is possible. It is if you're smart enough, you might not know what to look for. And so what I'm getting to is that, say for instance, you're building a hot rod. And this hot rod is from an era where it has ABS, it has airbags, it's got some light in it that you're trying to get off. Let's first say that you are modifying the vehicle and you just want to remove that system because like my cammed out V8, like the lobe of the cam is so like, I would almost explain it as like violent. It shakes the whole entire vehicle and you're literally, doing this the entire time. And, sometimes when I rev it up, or I'm driving and everything's obviously shaking, it pisses off the ABS system. The speed sensors are good. I've checked them, ohmed them out, made sure they're fine. I've there's nothing wrong with that system. It's just that the motor that's in this vehicle was not designed for this system. Or let's first say you cam out your vehicle, upgrade the engine. You got a lot of horsepower in this thing, and it just pisses off one of these systems. Or you want to, put a different steering wheel in your vehicle, and it's pissing off the airbag system. You don't want to put resistors in. You just want to remove the whole damn system entirely. This is what that video is for. So I'm going to show you what you need. What I'm trying to do is like the ABS system is what really, I'm removing from mine. I'm also going to remove the airbag system. We don't need that where we're headed. So this is what you want, okay? This is what it's called. It is basically an adjustable off-time delay relay, okay? This is the part number. It's sold by a company called Quality Mobile Video, and the part number is right there. QMV TDR 12V12. What this does is if you wire this a certain way, you can turn the ignition on and it will only let power on between 1 and 60 seconds, okay? Well, what happens when you turn your key on? It basically, turns on for a predetermined amount of time, 5-6 seconds, and then if there's nothing wrong with the system, it shuts the light off. So you set the amount of seconds with this little knob here, and like an airbag system, they like to flash, right? And they'll have a certain amount of flashes when you first start the vehicle up. And how you wire this, I'll explain in the next diagram. So let's go there. This is the diagram, okay? So this is how you wire this thing, okay? Obviously your negative is always going to be negative. It's going to be this pin at the top left right here. And then this is your ignition switch, okay? And when you turn the ignition switch on, it's going to allow power to your circuit for a certain amount of time, depending upon what you set this to. And you can take a flat screwdriver and turn it left and turn it right. And you turn it left, it decreases the time. You turn it right, it increases the time. Most lights will be on for 5-6 seconds. I mean, I'm not sure. Some of them may be like 10 to 11 or 12. But all this does is it sets a time to allow the circuit to pass through it, and then it turns the power off, which will turn the light off. Because if you have live in a state that has a state inspection, what this does is this will turn your light off. So this is the schematic that I'm doing, okay? I'm going to run 2 of them. With my particular vehicle, if the ABS light comes on, so does the brake light. I have an emergency brake, and you know, because I drive a manual, that circuit I have separated, and that goes into my Hall Tech, and it's just a emergency brake circuit. So I'm good on this. So what I'm going to do is right here's your negative, top left, and there's your ignition source. Okay. I'm going to set this for 5 seconds. And what that allows for is you take the bulb circuit, like the positive, you run one end on this pin right here, right the second one, and then the output going to the bulb is going to be this one. So it's the same on this one. So like this is my airbag circuit. So if there's nothing wrong with the airbag, it will sit there and it will flash for 5-6 seconds, and then it'll shut off. This right here will allow the cluster to send the signal to the bulb for 5 seconds. So it's going to flash like nothing's wrong. And then eventually, like after 5-6 seconds, this particular device will cut power and shut the bulb off. That's how this works. On my particular one, I have more of like an advanced, because all this is aftermarket stuff that I put in the vehicle. But that's how you get or disable a light if you have an inspection state that you live in. You wanted to, you know, disable the ABS. That's how it's done. So remember, your negative is always going to be negative. This is going to be ignition power. It is not constant battery power, because if that's the case, this thing will never work. Ignition only, because this system is set up in your cluster, no matter what vehicle you have, it's set up under the ignition switch. So what'll happen is, as long as you wire it to both of these arrows that are over here, this center pin and this bottom pin, make sure that it's set up just like this. Relays up here. These two, the power and ground is on the left side. And this top one, leave it alone. You don't need that for what we're doing, because what'll happen is if you set the top one, when you turn the ignition on, it's not going to be on, and then after this timer goes off, then it will turn it on. But for what we need, we just need these two pins right here. So this is how it's set up with these two arrows. Like, you turn the ignition on, this allows power to go through for a timer, and then once the timer is reached of 1 to 60 seconds, whatever you set this little dial to, then after that hits that timer, it cuts the power.